All right, so we have these individual widget list items, right? And what I'd like to be able to do is that when we're editing, we'd like to maybe show certain things that can be edited, right? So inside of the widget list item, perhaps one of the things that we should be able to edit is maybe we can delete it, and maybe we can change show a drop down so we can select the type of the widget. Yes. So for instance, this delete button shouldn't always be there. If we're editing, right, the delete button should only show when we are editing. When we're not editing, the delete button shouldn't be there. Yes? All right, so we can do that, right? So this delete button over here, we can also put it inside of an expression and say only show it if we're editing. Right? Only show it when we're editing. Still showing. What? Delete. This not state not editing and delete. I'm sorry. Editing is true. Okay, false. There we go. So in the edit. When we click on edit, then the delete button appears, right? And then when we're done, it just disappears, okay? All right, so other things I would like to show is that perhaps is a drop down, right? So in the, probably what we want to do is that we want to group together all the ones that are editing and put them together in one single place so that we don't have to have all these, if editing everywhere, right? We could put them all together in one single place, right? So let's add right next to the delete, we're going to put a drop down, a select, right? And that select should allow me to, probably we need to put this in one single div. No, not div, a span maybe. And then a span here. And then a select here. There we go. Yeah, because this and needs to have one single element, right? You can't have multiple elements. So I grouped them together using a span, yes? In a single element. So it still renders horizontally. So the select here is going to allow us to say that what do I want me to do? Is it a heading? What am I? Is it a paragraph? Am I a YouTube video? What am I? Right? So if I edit, the drop-down would appear, and then I can select whether it's a heading, a paragraph, YouTube video, whatever it is, right? Okay, so that is would change what? Would change the state, right, of this widget, right? But I am not the owner of my own state, right? That belongs where? Right? The reducer has that, right? My container has that. The server has that. I don't have any of that. I only care about the widget that is given to me, yes, and then I can render everything else. Right? Let me here instead of the name, let's look at the type. Right? Notice that these are all heading. I like to be able to change the heading to paragraph or whatever. Right? I would need to go to the server, and the server would need to update all this stuff, all this state. Yes, right? I can't do that myself. I'm not maintaining my own state. So let's do that. So how do we do that? How do we notify that? Right. So somehow I need to go up to my parent and change all these things. So let's do that. Let's see. What we're gonna do here is that here, right? I'm going to first make sure that the drop down, this drop down is correct, right? That this value shows the actual type of this widget, right? Right now they're all headings, right? So that makes no sense. Let's go back to the server and to make this a little more interesting. Let's create they're different. What? Oh, these are the ones that I created, right? Are these the ones that I created? Oh, that's probably it. So let's restart just so that it's a little more interesting. Let's refresh. There we go. So we have heading, list, paragraph. Right now, all the drop downs have the wrong value. Yes. So let's tie it to the correct value. Let's do that. We're going to say that the dropdown, this dropdown, the value of the dropdown is going to be tied to this dot props dot widget dot type. Okay, which is printed right here, right? Props dot widget. If we go back, notice that it's not working. What? Oh, okay, right. So it doesn't know which one to map it to, right? If this is widget, how do I know that this is the one I should select, right? If this is paragraph, how would I know that this is the one that I have to select? All right, to do that, we have to give each option the actual values. So this is heading, so that it can compare and say, ooh, yeah, your heading, right, and your paragraph, and your image, and your whatever. Yes? So this one is heading. This one is paragraph. This one is YouTube, which we're not supporting. What else we have? We have a list, and we have link, and we have image, right? So this is list, this is link, and this is image. Okay? So now if I edit, notice this shows heading, this shows list, this shows paragraph, and this shows image. See that? It shows the correct value. And if I try to change it, it won't let me, right? Because the state is image, right? And I would have to, somehow change my state, which I haven't done that yet, right? It's tied to that value. I need to somehow change it. Let's see if we can change it. What we could do is, on change, if there is on change, we need to notify somebody. On change, we have to, just like we can delete a widget, we can add a widget, we can say, hey, the widget state changed. Something changed, right? So let's do something like this, dot props dot update widget, right? Update widget, and pass as an argument. So this at some point, as you select it, later on, I want to call update widget, and the thing that I am updating is the type is going to be equal to what? I want to grab the value, right, from the dropdown, whatever you chose. Yes, whatever you chose. So that's inside of the event, right? Event. The target is the actual select DOM element, right? So the event is the actual event that gets generated as the onChange changes. Yes. The target is the DOM element that generated the event, which is select statement, the select element here, and then the value is the new value, which will be either heading, paragraph, YouTube, or whatever. Everybody okay? Okay. So let's try it again. Let's refresh, edit. Okay, it's still, all right, so it says, yeah, you're trying to notify somebody, but I don't know who that is. I don't know who update widget is. It's not mapped to anybody. Yes? Right? We will have to map it where? Way up at the where the reducer is, right? Where the container is, right? That it needs to be fed in from the outside. So update widget needs to be plumbed into us from our parent component. Just like we did for delete widget, same thing. We need an update widget with this dot props dot update widget, right? Which presumably is handled by the container. The container is the update widget, right? Which is going to be mapped to some function that is going to be invoking the dispatcher and is going to go out to some service. Yes? Okay. All right, excellent. So what do we get here? We get the new widget with the new values. If it's a new name, a new type, a new whatever, right? It's going to have all the changes here. And we're going to have to notify the server with all these changes because only the server knows about the actual state. Yes? All right, so let's do that. Right, so this will be something like, I'm just going to copy this. Okay. So this is going to be update widget is going to go down to the widget service. Here's the update. I'm going to pass the new widget inside, right? And presumably, I'm going to come back with a list of widgets the same way. And I'm going to notify the reducer that we just updated a widget. And the reducer would do the same thing for all these. Right? I'm being lazy here. A better option would be to only retrieve what changed as opposed to retrieving an entire list. Right? Ideally, I would only send data and retrieve data of only what has changed. Here, I'm always returning the same list over and over. That's very expensive. Especially if this were a very long page, I would be retrieving, I don't know, hundreds of widgets, and that would be very, very expensive. Ideally, I would only be sending back and forth only what I need. Yes? Right, so I would have some caching to work with here, but I'm not doing that. I'm being lazy. One thing that we kind of forgot here is that when we are passing this update widget, notice that I'm passing only the type. Yes? One of the things that the update is going to need is the ID of the widget. See that? But this JSON object doesn't have the ID. Doesn't have anything. It doesn't have anything, right? So I would have to put in, as part of this widget, I would need to put the ID as well, which is what? It's whatever came from here, right? It's whatever came from the widget dot ID. I would need to put everything in here. Copy all the old stuff, but I'm only changing the type. Yes, right? So that would be very cumbersome. So there's a notation that the dot notation allows me to do that. It says copy everything over from the widgets. You copy all the properties from the widget. I'm going to only override the type. I'm only going to override the type. Everything else, the ID, the name, right? Anything else that you have there, copy it over. Okay, I'm only going to override the type here. Right? So let's try it out. Let's try it out. Obviously, it's going to fail because the server, I don't even believe we have update implemented yet. Do we? I don't remember. On the server, do we have update? Okay, we have update. The only thing that it's doing is it's spitting out the array, spitting out all just a widget. Let's actually at least return all the widgets. What we're expecting. So this is widgets. Okay, let's restart the server. So at least this doesn't fail. Right? On the client, the container is going to use the service and going to pass update widget, right? And let's did we ever implement that on the service? I forget. Do we have update somewhere here? We do. Here's update. Why is it not linked? Widget service that update widget. It's this one over here. So it would be something like update. Ugh, I hate computers. Let's see if I click on it. All right, it goes into there. All right, excellent. Now it's good. Well, it's inside of the widget object, right? The ID. But yes, we need to pass that. So I'm going to copy here a create widget because it's going to look very similar to that. Let's go to the update. I'm going to replace this, right? And let's see. I'm passing the new widget. I'm not going to pass the ID because the ID is in the new widget. I'm going to remove the curly brackets, so this is an implicit return. And I'm going to pass the ID here because that's what the server is expecting, an ID at the end of this. And that comes from where? From my new widget.id. New widget.id. I'm doing a put. Oops. What did I do? Oh, my asses. Jeez. I have this tick of doing save all the time. So I'm stringifying the new widget. I'm putting that. and it is JSON. All right, excellent. So let's try it out. Let's try it out. Let's look at the inspect here, and the network. Let's see if this fails. So I'm going to edit. I'm going to change this to a paragraph. Notice that the first query was an options to see if I could do a put, and indeed I can do a put. And the second one is the actual put, and it's actually being sent. Notice that the type was paragraph, right? So that works fine. Notice that it didn't change because the response was that the first one stayed as a heading because I never actually changed anything on the server, right? I never changed anything. Let's do that on the server. Let's go back and actually do the change, right? Let's look at this. We're going to say update widget. It's going to do something like iterate over the widget on all inside of all the widgets. If I find the widget, if w, yes, if w.getID is equal to the ID equal to the WID, I found the widget that I need to change, and for now we're just going to change the type. I'm only going to change the type. Right, so I'm going to say the new widget set type. I'm going to change it to the new widget that is coming in, and I'm going to get the type. So I'm just copying over the type that is coming through the HTTP body, and I'm pasting it inside of my old widget, and presumably my new widget is going to have this brand new this old widget changed only the type. Yes. All right. So let's save that. Let's restart the server. Let's refresh. Oops. What happened? There we go. So if I clear this and I do edit, I change the heading and I change the paragraph. Notice that indeed my type changed to paragraph. See that? Right? And now this type can be used, alongside with the technique of the technique of this here, right? Along with this technique, we can say, hey, if it's paragraph, render this form. If it's a heading, render this other form, right? If it's a YouTube video, render this, get this other form, right? And then you would toggle between multiple form elements, right, that only make sense for that particular type of widget. Right? Probably you won't do it in this one single widget list item component. Probably you'll have separate components, one for widget, one for paragraph, one for YouTube, one for image, one for heading, yes? Right? Which will display depending on which type it is. Make sense? All right? Awesome.